Hey everybody, it's Josh Ellsworth and welcome to the Heat Press for Profit live broadcast coming to you every week on Fridays at noon Eastern Time, live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, also on our YouTube channel. So I want to thank everybody who is joining us live. Also, for those of you that are listening afterwards in the podcast audio only format, we appreciate you tuning in, following the show. As always, you can join us over on the Stahls channels to participate live and ask your questions. That's part of the exciting part. So we have an exciting show today. I'm going to welcome in an old friend, Frank Good from S&S Activewear, just in a moment. And Frank has a tremendous amount of experience in the industry, gets to travel around the country, see a lot of different things across different decorating technologies. And so this is one that you're going to be really interested to hear about, the conversations we're going to get into around contract printing, but even more than that, based on the questions that you ask. So make sure you shout out who you are and where you're watching from so we can say hello. And without further ado, I'm going to welcome in Frank to the episode. Hey, Frank, how you doing today?
I'm good, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. So just to kind of level set our audience on your experience, you want to bring them up to speed on who you are and what you've been about in the industry?
If you can tell with the accent, I am a Texan, but I do travel nationwide. Been in the industry a little over 20 years now. I was a screen printer and embroiderer and heat press operator. I cut my teeth on the Stahls autoclam and Hotronics autoclam way back in the day. And then I actually worked for Stahls for, I guess, 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah.
And I got to know the Stahls team and the Stahls family. Still looking to miss family. So when I see you guys at the show, I sometimes have to remind myself I can't go behind the counter anymore. Now with S&S, I was in sales and then moved into the S&S Freight Advantage manager role. That is our contract of a network of contract decorators across the nation. And we're a little over 300 total contract decorators now in the program.
Wow. So I know I speak for everyone at Stahls that say thank you for your collaboration individually and S&S as a whole. I know we've been able to work together on a ton of different opportunities and projects to really help heat applied decorators grow their business. So we've collaborated across content, and it just became logical to welcome you into the podcast because we have so many decorators that join us, and there is this movement, I would say. Contract printing's always been a thing, but there is definitely a movement in my mind to apparel decorators and apparel brands looking in and trying to find contract printers across a whole variety of technology. So when we look at the S&S Freight Advantage program, we look at the 300 contract decorators. What sort of processes are they offering, and who are their clients?
I always go back to the question about contract decoration in general. If you're a decorator, at some point, I feel like you're going to have this, fork in the road of, hey, man, we just did a job for so-and-so who, has end users or their end clients, and you get into contract decoration. And so that fork in the road is, should I, do direct to end user jobs? Should I do contract jobs? So sometimes there's that decision to begin with, and those that choose to get into contract decoration, it's a whole nother world as opposed to going direct to consumer. In that world, there's a little less margin, maybe a few less headaches, because you're generally dealing with somebody that already understands artwork, already understands what's expected. Many times you're not having to deal with purchasing inventory. It's just drop shipped to your door. And so it's a whole nother world in and of itself. I always tell people in contract decoration, you're not counting dollars, you're counting nickels.
Okay.
And so you really have to make sure your processes are set up efficiently to produce profit. And I believe that's what this show's about, right? Heat press for profit.
Yeah, that's it. We always zero in on profit because we want people to make money, right? And achieve their business goals, and profit allows you to achieve your goals, even if you're a nonprofit. Money is important to keeping the lights on and giving out to the cause that you're setting out to benefit. So when we look at,
sorry, I was just trying to finish the landscape that I'm seeing throughout the nation is more and more of your traditional screen print embroidery shop focusing more on heat printing as its own department. And I think I was sharing with you earlier, Josh, that, I've gone into shops, traditional style shops that maybe are a little slow to pivot. And, they've had heat printing for years, but it was like in a dark closet, that broom closet that they just had to make room for a heat press and a cap press because it was just one of those necessary evils that they had to do, maybe some numbers or names, for a local sporting event or whatnot. But we're seeing, them come full circle, and people are just grabbing their attention, especially with the relevance of DTF, direct to film printing. And, the applications have changed back, I guess, when they started screen printing, say 20, 30 years ago to what they are now. In fact, I was just listening to a podcast from the Impressions Long Beach show, and there were some purist screen printers on the show and saying, guys, if we're not paying attention to Ultracolor Soft or Ultracolor Max or DTF, we're going to be left behind because he was talking about all the printers that were at the show and saying, there's stuff I can't see the difference now. The quality and the speed is just way ahead of what it was back when they started as a screen printer.
Yeah, and that's really where a lot of contract printing came out of, right? Is we hear the terms, I'm a contract screen printer or I'm a contract embroiderer. And then you have many contract printers that check both of those boxes. But, I'm just wondering, when is the day we start to hear I'm a contract heat printer? Right. I think that could be a huge opportunity. So I don't want to get too deep before we say hello to our audience. I have a ton of questions for you.
Coming in.
So let's make sure we shout out who's watching from. Good to see Rye Beats watching us on our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us. McKinnon Printing was on earlier, loving the segments on Fridays. It's a new show for us. So thank you for joining. We love you joining live as well. We have some folks watching from Ohio, 5 Point Threads. Also Canada representing. So good to see you, Dean. Thanks for joining. Michael, thanks for joining and watching over on Facebook. Got D from Kentucky. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So make sure you shout out who you are, where you're watching from. And we even have some folks from New Jersey. It's chilly now. I'm sure it'll be chilly when we're out there at the end of March for the Atlantic City show as well. But looking forward to seeing you folks from the Northeast at the Impressions Atlantic City show here shortly. Nebraska, Minnesota. We got it all. Can't keep up with the comments. So, folks, those of you that are watching live, this is your show. So if you have questions for Frank, based on his experience, anything around apparel decorating, around contract printing, he's going to be able to give us his insight and answer that. So when we look into these contract printers, I guess what challenges are you seeing heat applied decorating solving?
The main challenge I see is they're less than minimums. When you have multiple colors and a logo, a design, that has always been the challenge, especially for a screen printer. Mm-hmm. It's always been a challenge, for setup. You have a 10 color job and it's 50 pieces. A lot of profit was lost on a contract decoration job. Especially if it's a good customer, they're sending you 10,000 piece orders and then they have a 50 piece order. You don't want to disrupt that relationship. So heat printing, has really come full circle to contract decorators being a one-stop shop for all of their contract customers' needs. On the embroidery side, when we've seen, polyester, it's just taken over the world. S&S, we're lucky to have Adidas as one of our nice golf, green grass brands. And they have some nice recycled polyester styles. And, it's very challenging unless you're Eric Campbell, to produce something that really looks good on a thin polyester. Well, that's not a problem anymore with heat printing. So you can fulfill, and especially with embroidery, because it's easier to take smaller quantity jobs on a contract basis when you're an embroiderer than it is for a screen printer. And so heat printing really fills that gap of small quantity runs, high color counts, or your thin polyester moisture wicking, even rayon. And I know rayon and spandex can be challenging, even in the heat printing world. But I think Stahls has got it figured out. There's many times in my position, we receive what we call a contract decorator request from internally right now. Eventually it'll be externally on our website, but for people looking for contract printers. And, many times it's, what service, and I'm seeing more and more, they're looking for low run heat printing, DTG, DTF. I'm seeing that a lot in the request. I get 4 to 5 a week. We profile our contract decorators, and heat printing is one of the profiles now. You have your base, screen printing, embroidery, dye sublimation, DTG, but heat printing is one now too. And of the 300 plus accounts that we have, or contract decorators in our network, I did a count yesterday for you, Josh. 128 are heat printing.
All right.
And
out of 300.
And 13 of those are part of the Stahls Decorator Network.
Yeah. So the other 172 must be asleep, huh, Frank?
Or we haven't profiled them correctly.
I'm joking. Yeah, I'm joking.
No, we are making a push this year to profile them even further, because many of those, they'll have it on their website, and as many of you that are decorators, hey, I'm just trying to get these jobs done. I'm trying to get them out to the door. So we'll send surveys out via email, and many times they don't get answered. And so a lot of this is profiling as we're in the shops and realizing, hey, you do heat printing. Are you doing that on a contract basis? We do ask that. And they, oh yeah, we do. We've had to. So we're seeing it more and more.
Excellent. And so we have a pretty diverse audience that tunes in. We have some small businesses, some that are part-time looking to go full-time. We have full-time businesses operating from home. We have commercial businesses that have large shops, maybe contract printers, even listening. And so just to zone in on maybe a startup decorator that is running a side hustle, or they don't have many employees in their business, it might just be them. What are the benefits, the biggest benefits you see of having a contract printer, whether it's for heat transfer or embroidery or screen printing, and how should they go about looking to find a contract printer? Like, what should they be looking for?
This is a little bit personal for me, Josh, because, not only am I part of S&S and I get to see many big shops, but my wife, she has a side hustle. And so I get to hear from the small shop, and we've come to this sort of fork in the road, deciding, okay, how do we want to handle her customer base? And she has a small shop. She does heat printing. She offers DTF transfers, and she many times has people come in and they need a large screen print job. And so she's at that point right now, deciding, and she is doing her due diligence and deciding, okay, who do I look at? She does have a contract screen printer down the road. He offers screen printing and embroidery. He has a good reputation, and he meets his deadlines. Mm-hmm. So those three things right there, I would say are key. If you're looking for a contract printer, don't be all things to all people. In my previous, to S&S and Stahls, I was a screen printer and embroidery, and I felt I had to be the one-stop shop and do everything in-house. You can still be the one-stop shop, just don't do everything in-house. My business grew, I believe it was it doubled 6 years in a row. It doubled every year. Wow. And it wasn't because I was so good. It was because I just kept adding a new service, screen printing, embroidery, a laser. We bought a sign shop out one year, and so on and so forth. It was very difficult. We had a staff of 12 to 13 full and part-timers, and it was very difficult to manage every department. It would have been easier. And I figured this out when we became part of ASI. It's like, wait a minute, I don't have to print these coffee mugs myself. I don't have to sublimate them myself. I can use an ASI company. I can still get paid to do it. I can still be a one-stop shop, but I can farm that out. So the same is with screen printing. My wife now says, hey, if you were to get back in, leave S&S and get back into the world, how would you do it? And I always say, I would not screen print. For one, it's messy. I feel that, using Ultracolor Max, it would be so much easier. I can just order from Stahls, especially, Josh, I just saw the 12 o'clock cutoff. Man, that's
midnight,
huge.
baby. Yeah.
That's huge. Have it, to my door 2 to 3 days. A screen printer is not going to be able to do that. Many times the transfers are going to get to my door before the garments will.
Yeah, absolutely.
S&S, we have, 8 warehouses. So I encourage people, if you're doing heat printing on a contract base, if you're doing heat printing as a business now, and you want to get into, screen printing or embroidery, start on a contract basis. It's a high skill level already. You can't do everything yourself. You need to run your business, not work in it. And many of you are already working it and you're trying to get to that position to run your business, or that point. And it's a great way to grow your business. You're already dealing with artwork. It's easy to send it to a screen printer, order the goods from S&S, drop ship to that screen printer or that embroiderer, and, let them do the hard work and vet them, know, can they meet, what are their expectations? Because it is a partnership. Look at it as a partnership. They're going to value the jobs you're sending them. Yeah, as a contract decorator, that's why they do contract decoration. They don't want to deal with the end user or, the consumer. They'd rather deal with you. And they value that relationship. They value you sending them jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to unpack it a little bit, and I want to make sure we don't lose anybody here along the way. We're broadcasting here on a Heat Press for Profit live broadcast. We have Frank Good from S&S Activewear, who helps to manage the S&S Freight Advantage program, which is their contract decorator network. So he has a lot of experience on contract printing. And what I just heard is when we're vetting a potential contract decorator, we definitely want to look for reputation, make sure it's somebody that we can trust. We may want to consider proximity. In the case of your wife's small business, proximity was an advantage. And then we want to have a conversation around turn and capability and everything they can do. And so whenever we're thinking through that and we add a contract decorator, I know a fear for a lot of people when we talk about proximity is, how do I know they're not going to take my customer? You have to hear that all the time, right?
First thing I do is look at their website. If they look like a competitor, they probably are.
Okay, good. And
the best contract decorators, I say the purest of a contract decorator is one that doesn't have a website. They're hard to find because they're full probably, and they're doing a great job. Now, I wouldn't say the best. They need a website. They need a platform to advertise their services because as you grow, they need to grow as well.
Yep, absolutely. And we do see contract printing happening a lot for people who are members of ASI. And just to clarify, because we had a question come in, ASI is Advertising Specialty Institute. It is a trade organization that you can join. They have trade shows, and it's a great place to be able to connect to people who offer contract decorating on unique items, right?
And PPAI would be as well in that.
Yeah, PPAI and ASI both big in the promotional product space. So we exhibit there as Stahls. I know S&S shows up at a lot of the shows and events as well. But you also see like, hey, I want to source a line of drinkware, right? That I want to add, but I want to have somebody decorate it, laser etch it or whatever for me. Or I can source, custom journals. And so it's a great way to be able to connect and grow out your product assortment or your decorating technology like screen printing, embroidery, without having to invest in all the equipment, the space, and the overhead to do it all. So thanks to our team for linking the ASI website where you can learn more about it at asicentral.com. Now, I want to back up a little bit because we were comparing the growth of heat transfer as a category, and really its rise to be able to handle low to mid quantity jobs. I'd also add to it the ability to achieve special effect finishes that are more difficult to achieve in other processes.
Mm-hmm.
But with the rise of direct to film as a technology, which we call our Ultra Color Max transfers, we have a question from Stephanie about quality, and her experience is that DTF doesn't last long. And so talk about how all DTF is not created equal, like just in general. What do people need to think about from a technology standpoint?
It is like a screen printer. There's screen printers that are starting out and they're learning. So I would say, and when I was a screen printer, when I was learning, my quality was probably not as good as it was when I was 5 years into it. Well, Stahls is how old now?
91 years.
They've been doing this a while. I think they have the quality side figured out, and not all DTF is created equally, and not all DTF is, I see DTF transfers, and people are calling them screen print transfers. So you also have to understand the technology that you're using, and what it actually is. But I have sampled Ultra Color Max. It's a great product. I have DTF on my cap here. This my wife had created. And if you're at that point where you're looking at, and this is, I can tell you the pain points of doing DTF in-house yourself. It is tough. It is, there was times for months I'd say, how was your day, babe? And all I'm really asking is, was the machine working today or not? It is, if you haven't looked into DTF, if you're looking at doing it yourself in-house, you better be familiar with production efficiencies, digital printing in general. You better have lots of patience, a strong marriage. I say anybody that's looking at it's still in generation 1, generation 2, maybe the shakers, powders, generation 3. I feel it is still where DTG was 15 years ago. Do yourself a favor, just use Stahls or somebody that has it figured out. I still have seen people that are doing DTF, and their product's not consistent. They'll get it in one day, it's great. They'll get it in another day, and it's not something that they can stand behind. So use, if it's not Stahls, use somebody that it's a product they can stand behind when it comes to that. Because especially when it comes to contract decoration, you want, your relationship is with your customer, and they're going to be candid with you because they're going to hear it from their customer.
Right.
Hey, this is what you gave me. So to summarize your question, DTF does last, but you got to have a good product.
Yeah, and a good recipe, right? So even if you have the world's best transfer, or you nail the recipe on the manufacturing of the transfer, you still need to have the correct time, temperature, and pressure. So your heat press has to be accurate in delivering that. And you still have to have some operator knowledge to make sure you're loading your item flat without seams, and like you really understand how to do it accurately inside the shops. And that's what's great about these contract printers, especially those that are in the Freight Advantage program, as well as the Stahls Decorator Network, is they've not only been certified by S&S, but they've been certified by Stahls independently, that they have the equipment, the training, the know-how to execute with quality. And so if you are, maybe you have one 360 IQ press as a small business, and maybe you land a job that's 5,000 caps that needs to be delivered within 15 business days, and it's just you in the shop. And so contract decorators are great to have in your back pocket as a way to flex your capacity, because maybe you have the capability, you just don't have the time to get it done. And so being able to have a contract printer that you can drop in, the Richardson 112 caps from S&S, that you can drop in the flex style patches and pay a per piece rate to have that printed for you. To me, that is a huge benefit just to extend your capacity as a decorator.
And about the equipment, Josh, I this cap right here, I tried to press on a traditional cap, and I could not. It was very, very difficult. I went to the impressions show and talked to our buddy Brian Purcell with Stahls, and he pressed it on the IQ, one press, and it was done. So it is a matter of equipment. I can't tell you how many contract decorators I go into that have the 360 IQ, and they said we wouldn't do hats without this. Stahls isn't paying me to say this, but it is a great press. It has solved so many issues with caps. It makes it easier for me with S&S to sell the Richardson 112, to sell Legacy headwear. It's a great press. If you don't have it, you better get in line. I don't know if there's a wait right now, but I would wait.
Believe it or not, we called it Stocktoberfest. They've been in stock, and our manufacturing location has been keeping up since October. So all machines are fully in stock, ready to ship next business day, which is pretty cool. From where we were, it was like 12 weeks at one point.
I knew I was going to Long Beach, and I took the cap with me. I'm like, I'm going to find one on the floor, and I'm going to get it pressed, and I did. So
nice.
Great press, Josh.
Hey, you're getting shout outs on your apparel here. I got to share from Sam Young. He says, nice logo placement on your shirt there. So, yeah, he likes the hat. I'm sure he likes the hat, but the shirt is pretty cool. The other side, you got the top sort of placement there. That's pretty cool. Yeah, the other side. You can't even feel it. See, how about that?
Yeah, it's a transfer. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty neat, hitting that seam location. And you know what it does? It drew everybody's eye to the logo. So when you're thinking about heat printing as a technology, don't just think about your traditional placements, but think about the advantages it can offer over screen printing or over embroidery, because it's tough to hit varying locations with the same screen without burning a new one. And it's also difficult to hoop certain locations and certain products. So some advantages there as well.
Yeah, this our buddy Stefan, I think this was his idea. If you're not watching Decoration Myths with S&S and Stahls, there's some really cool videos on there on different placements. And, you guys really push the envelope. I love watching them. I think a new one just landed today.
Oh, did it? I haven't seen it yet. So that's over on the S&S Activewear YouTube channel is where you can find that series. It only publishes there. It's exclusive content on the S&S Activewear YouTube channel. I think we're like 15 episodes deep. I guess S&S leadership renewed us for a new season, so we're excited for that, right?
You know how many times we send that out to contract decorators looking to solve problems? We're like, oh, it's heat printing? Here, let me send you this video. And we send you and Stefan, so it's good content.
Yeah, as I was at one of the S&S events, I had people from Columbia, for instance, walking up, like that's a line you guys carry, and talking about just the excitement to be able to solve a product that's only been able to decorate one way, and now being able to put, a patch or get coverage on a Sherpa item. We try to solve like complex challenges that people think aren't possible. And so it's a really fun series. And honestly, I've done some pretty funny things in there. I think I burnt the rope off of a rope cap, and we make mistakes too along the way.
I'm trying to get your bloopers reel. I got to get your bloopers reel. I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, well, I have a good handle with Joe, our video production manager, to make sure that bloopers reel never leaks out, because there's some things in there that can't get out. So Ken loves the placement too. Would have never thought of it. So for those that are listening to the audio content, I'm going to explain it. Frank basically has his logo right up against the top seam on a left shoulder placement rather than the traditional left chest. It's just a simple single color heat transfer, but the placement does all the talking on the item.
A horizontal logo, so it fits great.
All right, awesome. So guys, we're broadcasting live. We're coming up on the end of our time together. It went so quick. But I do want to open it up for any additional questions. So if you have questions about contract decorating, how it works, whether it would work for your business, questions about S&S Activewear, their product mix, those things in general, or just comments, we would welcome those in. And Terrence is saying we want to see the bloopers. We want to see what screws up as well. You know what my favorite blooper ever was? And it was actually my brother's blooper from many years ago, is he drinks these big glasses of water, like obnoxious waters, and I think he had a big gulp, from a gas station or something. It was filled with water, and while he's threading the heat press, he punches the water that was sitting beside the heat press and just spills it all over the counter, but just kept going. But that was a pretty fun one. And then there's some tongue twisters as well. So Rye says the placement reminds me of North Face, but in the front. Great idea. Yeah, because that back shoulder placement on North Face is pretty cool. We've seen a lot of different brands have that back shoulder placement. And so, mimicking retail brands with house brands is a great opportunity. But in S&S, you guys are selling Adidas and Columbia and all these premium brands that already have that brand logo to elevate the value that we can just bring in the client logo along with. How are you seeing the sales of those premium brands? Are they growing, or are people trying to access those more?
There's constantly this, and I call it a battle of theory. Well, I want to sell more. So, it's many people race to the bottom when it comes to price or quality. But, if you're not considering premium brands, you need to really test the waters, because I know we're all price conscious, when there's always talks of recession and, times are tight, but there's people out there spending money. They want quality. And, if you do studies, regarding quality, the product's going to last longer. The customer's going to come back. That's one of the reasons S&S has done well. Because many times we don't get into the, we want to have the least expensive for programs. We don't get into that game. We want Adidas, we want Columbia, we want Dry Duck, we have Paragon now. And a lot of these brands, they are elevated brands, and we're having the challenge is keeping them in stock because so many people are wanting them. And so if you're not offering premium brands, many times we've taught, good, better, best. Constantly look at the best and say, hey, for one, your ROI is going to probably be a little higher. Your profit margin is going to be a little higher, and your customer is going to be happier. They remember the stuff that's nice. They're wearing it. I have a puffer from Weatherproof that we sell, and it turns into a neck pillow, and I take it when I travel. And it is nice, and it's expensive, but I remember it. I'm like, no, man, that's nice. I'm taking that with me. And it gives you a sense of prestige when you're wearing it. You're like, yeah, this is an Adidas polo, or this is actually Adidas I am wearing.
Yeah. And what I think about is, like, I don't know how many, and I'll tell on some of the meetings I've been to. I mean, how many corporate meetings have you been to, or trips or things where you would go and you would get a lot of stuff, right? A bag full of stuff at a conference or whatever. But, the max value on any certain item was maybe $15, $20, right? And so what happens is most of the stuff doesn't get worn, the logo doesn't get seen, and it doesn't get remembered, right? It's all about impressions. And so your client's goal with bringing their logo to life on an apparel item is to have it worn out, meaning to have it worn outside where people recognize that brand, but also to have it worn many times and last, and have it like wear out before over the period of a long time to get more impressions. And so I personally would rather see, instead of five $20 items in a swag bag or a merch kit, I'd love to see one $75 item, right? And maybe a $25 item. So I think understanding your client's budget and seeing if maybe you can go with less items and higher quality. Not only is that great for getting the brand recognized, but it also helps to address a big challenge we have in this country, in this world, which is the problem of apparel waste, right? And by creating cheap stuff that doesn't get used or worn, we're contributing to that problem.
That's a good point, Josh.
Yeah.
Real quick, I know we're at the end, Josh, but I did want to mention in contract decoration, especially with heat printing, we're seeing a big, and something I didn't mention was print on demand. We're seeing a rise with print on demand, fulfillment. That in itself too, we're starting to profile more among our contract decorators because we're getting more asked for that. And then third is events. We're seeing a rise in print on demand, fulfillment, and events. So if you're looking at growing your business through maybe a new market vertical, those are on the rise, and heat printing is a solution for those. Those people that are offering that, it's via heat printing.
Yeah, and A lot of people don't realize is this would be a fun way just to like inspire people. And you may not have heard of this website from Stahls before. If you're only doing business at Stahls.com or Transfer Express, is we have a little known company where I'm sitting today called Stahls Decorating Fulfillment Center. And so for those that are listening, go to Stahls, D as in dog, F as in Frank, C as in cat, stahlsdfc.com. And you will see examples of activations utilizing heat transfer technologies at some of the largest scales events that are out there in sports. So we're a licensed jersey fulfillment house for all of the major leagues. And so you can really get inspired on how the hat press is being used at an activation for a very high-end party for a very high-end client in sports, or how the heat press is being used inside of, a stadium that you would know. And you can take those concepts as a decorator and say, hey, here's how I can think about growing my heat transfer business, letting a contract printer worry about the basic stuff. And then maybe I go out on the road and handle more of these experiences to drive, that higher value client relationship, because odds are those big clients are going to want to have those experiences. You can bring those to life, but you can connect the manufacturing on the back end for the large quantity orders. So we're getting some comments here I want to make sure we get to before we leave. And so Christopher's question watching on YouTube is right on. And this is why I would expect it. Like, what's the best way to start finding and evaluating contract printers? What advice do you have there, Frank?
If you're working with a Stahls sales rep already, if you have an account rep or customer service, you can always request a contract decorator from them, and they'll send that request to my desk. And then, we'll send a list according to if you want a certain type of decoration or in a certain region of the country. And we give you, I always try in one area at least to give 3 to 4 options. I would look in, if you're looking at proximity and you're not using the S&S network, I would just, first thing ask, hey, find a printer. Do you offer contract decoration? Do you have a wholesale price list? And what are their terms?
Awesome. And I would welcome, for those of you that are in our Heat Press for Profit Facebook group, hop over there and somebody start a thread and ask for recommended contract printers that you're using. And I think if you want to access the S&S product through the Freight Advantage program, if you can find one of those contract printers that are part of the S&S Freight Advantage network, the gist of that program is you can ship those blanks in for free, correct?
Yeah, it could be one piece and there's no shipping charge if it's going to the contract decorator's address. And we will soon have that on our website where you can request a contract decorator via the website. I'm hoping in the next month or so.
Yeah. And we got some good comments in the background, a little bit of debate. I'm going to leave it sit where it sits there. But, the point I want to make is that there are different business models for everybody. Premium brands may play into your business model and where you want to be. Kind of those house brands may play into your business model. And the beautiful thing about this industry is that as long as you know who your customer is and you have a plan and you have a model, you can win. And there's plenty of space for everybody, and not everybody should look alike. That's why we want to craft unique value in our model. So take this information, apply it to your audience, your target, the way you want to approach the market. It may be a fit, it may not, but you should definitely evaluate it. And to your point earlier, Frank, kind of work on the business instead of in the business to be able to grow at the rate that I think most listening would want to. So as we come down to our final minute together, any last thoughts for our audience listening today? I guess what's upcoming for S&S? What can we expect?
From my standpoint,
are you allowed to talk about it? You're probably not allowed to talk about it, right?
We have our national sales conference next week in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know yet, there might be some announcements that I'm unaware of right now. So let's do this again in a week.
Yeah, let's stay tuned.
But now, as far as upcoming, I think, S&S has 8 warehouses in the U.S. We have S&S Canada. There's a warehouse in Puerto Rico. I always, jokingly say S&S is taking over the world. So that's sort of my mission, my team's mission. But we're really just trying to spread the S&S love and shows many customers the product offering that we have.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting, and we're excited to keep collaborating in 2023. For those that have joined live today, I want to thank you for joining. Frank, thanks so much for joining us. I know you came in here, contract printing, big topic. You live in that world. I'm learning about that world, but I think we were able to share a ton of advice for our listening audience. So I appreciate you coming here today.
Thank you for having me, Josh. Awesome.
All right, we'll talk again soon, Frank. For those listening, Heat Press for Profit. This is broadcast live every week on Fridays at noon Eastern time. So if you follow the Stahls TV YouTube page, the Transfer Express or Stahls All Things Heat Printing Facebook pages, the Heat Press for Profit Facebook group, or the Stahls account on LinkedIn, you can tune in, you can watch live and have the visual, or you can always listen to it while you're heat pressing wherever you listen to podcasts 1 week after we publish it live. So thanks so much for joining. If you have ideas, or maybe you want to be on the next episode and share advice, make sure you hop into that Heat Press for Profit group. Share with us what you'd like to learn about, because we're always looking for content to help your business grow. And thank you for watching, guys. Have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend.